Genius is sexual energy that refused to orgasm and chose to build instead. Sigmund Freud. Before we begin, here's a small ritual. Write in the comments one word that accurately describes your current state. Sign it, and let's get started. There is something inside every person that no one talks about. Not in school, not in church, not even in so-called spiritual circles. It's too raw, too untamed, too close to the truth. It sleeps deep in the body, and when it wakes up, life is never the same again. This is not about sex, it's about energy, the one that breathes through desire, moves in silence, and burns behind the eyes. Freud didn't invent it, he just dared to look at it directly, and said what others were too afraid to say. They called him crazy, perverted, dangerous, but all he did was open a forbidden door. Behind that door lives the most primal force, the sexual energy. It is the root of creativity, the fuel of madness, the drive of genius. Every great creator has felt it. Every rebel, every visionary, every artist who didn't fit in. They didn't just think differently, they felt differently, deeper, wilder. More honestly, that energy didn't make them safe. It made them alive. But for most people, that fire never rises. It stays buried, crushed by shame, guilt, rules, and polite silence. From early childhood, the message is clear. Don't touch yourself. Don't feel too much. Don't talk about it. Don't even think about it. Pretend it doesn't exist, but it does. It whispers at night. It pulses in dreams. It trembles in the belly when no one's watching. It knows who you are before you learned how to behave. The system doesn't need you wild. It needs you obedient. So it trains you early. It disconnects you from your body. It makes you scared of your own fire. Because someone burning from within cannot be controlled from the outside. But that fire doesn't go away. It waits, and one day, something triggers it. A touch, a look, a moment of raw truth. And suddenly, your whole being starts to vibrate. You don't understand it. You don't even know where it comes from, but it feels like home. That's when it begins. The awakening, not gentle, not peaceful, more like an earthquake. Everything you've hidden starts rising. Not just desire, but power, focus, vision, anger, tenderness, creation, destruction, all of it. The sexual energy doesn't ask for permission. It just moves. And when it does, you have two choices: shut it down or ride it. Those who shut it down become tired, bitter, empty. They might smile, go to work, post perfect pictures, but inside, they are frozen, cut off, half alive. But those who ride it transform. They don't run from their fire. They learn to dance with it, to channel it, to speak through it. That's where art is born. That's where revolutions begin. That's where genius lives. Not in the mind, in the body, in the raw, trembling, shaking pulse of real life. And here's the secret. This energy doesn't belong to any one part of you. It's not just between your legs. It's behind your eyes, in your voice, in the way you walk, touch, breathe. Its presence, its intensity, its life without apology. Freud wasn't wrong. He was just early. We are all born with this power, but only a few ever dare to feel it fully. Because once you do, you can't go back. You can't pretend. You can't lie to yourself anymore. And when that happens, everything you thought you were begins to melt, and something deeper steps forward. Not the mask, not the role, but the real you. And that is where the genius begins. From the very beginning, They teach you to be ashamed, not with words, with glances, with silence, with punishments that don't look like punishments, just cold distance, disapproval, discomfort. A child reaches for their body, explores, breathes freely, and the world immediately reacts. Not there, not like that, not now. Slowly, something pure becomes something secret. The body turns into an enemy. Desire becomes guilt. Aliveness is trimmed, softened, hidden. And this doesn't stop in childhood. It just changes shape. In school, silence. In religion, sin. In media, distortion. Sex is everywhere, but truth is nowhere. Bodies are shown, but never honored. Touched, but never felt. It becomes a product, a tool, a distraction. All this serves one purpose: to disconnect you from your power. Because the body is not just skin and bones. It's intelligence. It remembers what the mind forgets. It stores truth, trauma, joy, pain, fire. It holds your rawness, your hunger, your knowing. And that's dangerous. A person connected to their body is not easy to manipulate. They feel too much. They question. They sense lies even when no words are spoken. That's why the system works hard to keep you numb, busy, ashamed. They say it's to protect you, but what they really protect is the structure, the order, the quiet obedience of disconnected people. So you learn to hide. You hide your pleasure, your rage, your instincts. You call it maturity, control, decency. But inside, there's a tension, a scream, a forgotten flame. And that flame doesn't die. It leaks out in strange ways, in sudden anger, in quiet depression, in anxiety with no name, in craving for things you don't even want. Your system is trying to speak, but you've been trained not to listen. And yet beneath all the shame, the body waits. It waits for your return, for your touch, for your breath, for your yes. This isn't about sex. This is about permission, to feel, to want, to be, without filters, without fear. Because only when you come back to the body can you remember who you are. There's no genius in a frozen chest, no clarity in a clenched jaw, no fire in a numb pelvis. Genius lives in flow, in heat, in openness, and none of that happens in shame. Shame shuts the gates. Energy can't move. You can't move. You live behind glass. Look alive, but never touch the flame. But the moment you turn toward the body, something shifts. You breathe deeper. You move slower. You feel more. And you realize nothing is wrong with you. The shame is not yours. It was planted, repeated, reinforced, but never true. Your body was never the problem. It was the key. And once you hold that key, you don't ask for permission anymore. You walk differently. You speak from somewhere lower, fuller, realer, and people feel it, even if they don't understand it. That's not arrogance. That's presence. That's what the system fears most. Because a person who is not ashamed cannot be controlled. Sexual energy is not a theory. It's not a metaphor. It's not just about touch or attraction or some vague idea of passion. It is a living force. And when it flows freely, it transforms you. Not just in one way, but in many. It changes your walk, your gaze, your rhythm, your mind, your presence. It gives you gifts, real ones. Here are 10. First, charisma. Not the fake kind, not a performance, but the real magnetism that comes when someone is alive in their body. People feel it, even when they don't know why. It's not about beauty. It's about energy. Undeniable. Irresistible. Second, resilience. This energy feeds the nervous system. It increases dopamine, balances hormones, awakens the core. When you're plugged into it, you don't burn out as fast. You don't collapse as easily. You have fuel because you stopped leaking it. Third, creativity. The connection is direct. The same energy that creates life also creates art, words, movement, ideas. When sexual energy is unblocked, imagination explodes. Not in fantasy, in vision. Genius isn't cold logic. It's fire directed. Fourth, emotional depth. When the body is open, emotions move. They don't get stuck. You cry cleaner. You laugh deeper. You feel the room. You don't float above life. You're inside it. Fifth, willpower. People think it comes from the mind, but will lives lower. In the belly, in the hips. When that part is shut down, your drive weakens. But when it's awake, you move mountains. Not because someone told you to, but because you must. Sixth, wholeness. There's no more split, no more pretending, no more good version, fighting the bad one. You are one, integrated, complete. That brings peace and power. Seventh, focus. Sexual energy, when not wasted, becomes laser-like. You stop chasing, you start building, creating, sharpening. The mind becomes clear. The distractions lose their power. Eighth, intuition. The body is wise, and when it's alive, it speaks through sensation, through subtle signals, through knowing that makes no sense, but is always right. Genius listens to that knowing. Ninth, aliveness. This one is simple. When the energy flows, you feel more. Not always comfort, but always truth. You're awake. The sky looks different. The air tastes deeper. Time slows down. 10th, magnetism. Not just sexual, but existential. People want to be near you, not because you please them, but because you remind them of something they lost. You become a mirror of their own buried fire. All these gifts are real, measurable, proven again and again, not just in spiritual traditions, but in science. Studies show direct links between libido and motivation, hormonal balance and creativity, sexual health and mental clarity. But these powers don't come when energy is scattered. They come when it's claimed, honored, directed. That's what geniuses do. Consciously or not, they channel it. They don't waste it on endless seeking, scrolling, pretending. They turn it inward. They build with it. They let it burn through their blocks, their fears, their hesitation. And that's what makes them different. Not talent, not luck, but inner fire, unchained. This energy is not a luxury, it's a foundation. Without it, everything is effort. With it, everything flows. So the real question is not whether you have it. You do. The real question is whether you will dare to feel it fully and let it shape the life you were meant to live. Some try to kill the fire, others learn how to hold it. But the rare ones, they transform it. They turn sexual energy into something else, into music, into movement, into wild poetry, into visions that shift the world. That process has a name. Freud called it sublimation. He didn't mean suppression. Suppression is death. Sublimation is life redirected. The energy doesn't disappear. It rises. It leaves the body, climbs through the spine, floods the mind, and bursts into creation. You've seen it. In the eyes of an artist mid-painting, in the voice of a dancer moving like thunder, in the stillness of a poet bleeding onto paper. They are not working. They are in trance, in heat, in union with something bigger. This is not mystical talk, it's biology, neurology, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, all of them shift when this energy is consciously channeled. Brain scans show that creative states activate similar zones as sexual arousal, because it's the same wave, riding a different current. Dalí was obsessed with eroticism. So was Picasso. So was Frida. So was Miles Davis. And none of them hid it. They didn't need to. They weren't addicted to sex. They were drunk on life, on energy too big for small boxes. That's the difference. Addicts consume. Creators release. They don't chase pleasure. They let pleasure become form. It's not always glamorous. Sublimation can look like madness, like isolation, like sleepless nights and sudden tears. But it's sacred. It's a way of honoring the inner storm. Even in ancient traditions, this was known. In Tantra, in Taoism, in Hermetic teachings, sexual energy was never about escape. It was about transformation. Not through denial, but through presence, through devotion, through choice. Because when you don't run from your fire, it stops burning you. It warms you. It lights your path. This is where genius begins to root. Not just as spark, but as discipline. You show up to your craft not because it's easy, but because something inside you must move. If it stays stuck, it turns into pain. But if it flows, it creates beauty. Freud saw this in his patients. Those who repressed their desire broke down, but those who sublimated, wrote, painted, dreamed, healed. He didn't always know how to guide it, but he saw it, felt it, feared it. Because it's not safe. It breaks rules. It shifts identities. It challenges authority. And it doesn't care what others think. That's why true creators often stand alone. Not above others, but outside the frame. They don't follow the script. They write their own. And it's never just about talent. It's about surrender. Surrender to the current that runs deeper than thought. The world rewards productivity. But sublimation isn't about output. It's about transmission, frequency, vibration. When you create from this place, people don't just understand. They feel. And that's what makes it powerful. You don't need to explain yourself. You become the message. So when you feel that fire rise, don't run. Don't numb it. Don't waste it. Breathe with it. Move with it. Let it climb. Let it burn through every lie you've been told about being too much. Because too much is exactly what this world needs. Sexual energy scares the system, not because it's dirty, but because it's free, unpredictable, impossible to control. The system doesn't want freedom. It wants obedience, structure, predictability. People who follow the rules, stay in line, buy what they're told, and fear their own power. So it wraps sexuality in shame. It labels it dangerous, sinful, inappropriate, immature. It floods the culture with fake sex, glossy, hollow, numb. Not to awaken, but to distract. Not to empower, but to sedate. True sexual energy doesn't make you a slave. It makes you a rebel. And that is the system's worst nightmare. Because a person who owns their body owns their life. They can't be manipulated with fear, can't be bribed with approval, can't be broken by pressure. They don't need permission to exist. They already do. That's why control always begins with the body. If they can disconnect you from your own skin, they've already won. If they can make you afraid of your desire, They've made you smaller than you are, and they do it early, in childhood, in schools, in families, through silence, through punishment, through distorted ideas of purity and shame. You learn to shrink, to stay quiet, to be good, but good often means dead inside. And people who are dead inside are easy to guide, easy to sell to, easy to use. Look around. Numbness is everywhere. People who don't feel, don't breathe deeply, don't know what they want. They scroll, they shop, they chase quick highs, and then they crash. It's not their fault. It's design, but it's not unbreakable. Because the moment someone reconnects with their energy, something cracks. The illusion, the numbness, the fake comfort. It all starts to fall apart. And when that happens, questions rise. Real ones, not the ones you're supposed to ask, but the ones that burn. What am I doing here? What do I really feel? Who am I when no one's watching? These are dangerous questions. They lead to change, to awakening, to fire. That's why society keeps you busy, entertained, distracted, productive, but never still, never naked with yourself. Because in that stillness, the system loses grip. And yet, the body remembers. No matter how long you've been asleep, the body keeps the truth. Every suppressed urge, every quiet longing, every time you wanted to scream, or dance, or cry, or touch, it's still there. And when you return to it, you don't just feel pleasure, you feel rage. You realize how much was stolen, how much was buried, how much of your life was spent in hiding. But that rage is sacred. It's not destruction, it's ignition. From that fire, you rise, not as a consumer, not as a follower, but as a force. You start speaking differently, walking differently. You stop asking for approval. You stop apologizing for being full. You stop playing small because you remember that you never were. And the system, it feels that. It knows it's losing you. That's why it fights harder, tries to pull you back, through guilt, through fear, through stories of danger and punishment. But once you've tasted your own power, you can't forget it. It becomes your compass, your fuel, your truth. And nothing, no law, no culture, no lie, can take it from you again. At the edge of all this, something waits. Not more knowledge, not another method, but a moment. A moment when you finally stop running from shame, from desire, from yourself. You sit, you breathe, you feel the fire. Not as a problem, but as a presence. Not as chaos, but as clarity. You look it in the eye, and it looks back. That's when the shift begins. The shadow you've been avoiding. It's not trying to destroy you. It's trying to free you. It holds all the parts you silenced. The boldness, the madness, the wild laughter, the raw hunger, the unfiltered love. When you reject it, you lose power. When you embrace it, you gain it back. This isn't a metaphor, it's real. Because when the mind aligns with the body and the fire inside is met with respect, not fear, you become whole, awake, dangerous, in the best way. But energy alone is not enough. Fire, if left alone, burns. It needs form. It needs direction. Otherwise, it turns into craving, into addiction, into endless seeking. Here's the key: intention. Set it every day with your breath, with your spine, with your choices. Decide where the energy goes. Not to escape, not to impress, but to create, to move, to serve something real. You want to turn sexual energy into a tool that reaches any goal. Then do this. Every morning, before the noise, before the world enters your space, stand still. Place one hand on your lower belly, one on your chest. Breathe into both. Let the fire rise. Feel the pulse. Then speak your intention out loud, not as a wish, as a command. I direct this energy toward, and finish the sentence. It doesn't matter what you choose. Clarity, focus, art, business, healing, discipline, love. Speak it, mean it, and let the energy serve it. Do this for 21 days, without skipping, and you will feel it, the shift, not in your fantasies, in your body, in your actions, in how others respond to you, in how you respond to yourself, because now the fire is not wild, it's yours. This is what no one teaches, that your greatest fuel is already inside you, that the parts you've been taught to silence are the exact parts that will take you where you've always wanted to go, not in resistance, in surrender, not in control, in direction. Sexual energy, once awakened and aimed, becomes the engine of genius, the backbone of bold choices, the quiet force behind everything powerful, beautiful, unforgettable. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be felt. You don't need more effort. You need more embodiment. You don't need permission. You need to return to your breath, to your skin, to your truth, to your fire. And once you do, you stop chasing life. You start creating it with every step, every word, every spark, as someone who finally remembered who they are and who they've always been. We're sure you've discovered plenty of value, so subscribe now and stay connected.